Hey, and welcome to another interview. Today we have our co-founder and CEO, Yinglian, and we are going to be talking about some really exciting news around Gartner, and we're going to be talking about a little bit of the future of AI. So thank you for taking your time today, Yinglian.
Well, it's my great pleasure to be here. I'm Yinglian Xie. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Datavisor, and my great pleasure to be here to share some of my thoughts with everyone.
Well, as I mentioned, we were recently awarded by Gartner as a cool vendor for innovative use of unsupervised machine learning. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
Well, it's truly exciting news for us. You know, Datavisor has been around for about almost 6 years. And so for us, we've been committed to work on the best technology. And in particular, we've been working on unsupervised machine learning starting from day one, right? And it's a relatively new concept if you really roll back to 6 years ago. And that's where AI and machine learning started picking up pace and getting a lot of attention. But a majority of this has been centered around the more traditional supervised machine learning. And unsupervised machine learning is really a kind of new foreign concept. And I'm glad that after this a few years in progress, everybody started recognizing the values and the type of problems that can be solved uniquely by unsupervised machine learning technology. And just to also mention another evidence, and the Datavisor's unsupervised machine learning technology was also named about the 15 technology that will disrupt the industry in the next 5 years by Forbes. And these are all the kind of, I think, recognitions around that unsupervised machine learning is gaining more attention. And also everybody, like enterprises, customers, are started seeing its value in the industry to transform the way we handle risks, detect fraud, attacks.
I mean, that's super exciting news to hear about Forbes as well. I mean, these are big time brands that are recognizing us. So, you highlighted a little bit about the unsupervised machine learning. Can you explain exactly what that means and what makes our approach unique to the industry?
Well, by name, unsupervised machine learning, right? And it really means that the algorithm will automatically discover patterns and identify this insight from data in an unsupervised way, meaning without historical loss experience or training data. And that's truly its biggest value. And if we look at the conventional way of supervised machine learning and how it works is usually we as humans need to provide data points, or we need to label data so that, for example, in the security and fraud area, we need to know what is good look like. What is bad activity look like? Therefore, we can train the machine learning algorithm to build a model that can help us classify and detect more similar type of attacks. And but by nature, particularly in our kind of risk and fraud space, we are faced with active adversaries where things are constantly evolving, constantly changing. Therefore, the biggest challenge that the industry face is how do we detect this new unknown type of attacks. And that's where the promise of unsupervised machine learning bring is to be able to, by looking at exploring the raw data and without these labels, without these tags, and be able to proactively detect this kind of new unknown attacks as they unfold in real time. And that significantly changes our position with the industry, that we are truly now can be adaptive to the attack patterns as they modify their patterns, as they evolve.
Well, you talked about that it's a significant change to the industry. And I mean, when we started, everyone was taking a supervised learning approach. What made you decide that taking an unsupervised approach was the right move?
I think a couple of reasons really, and for one thing that we talk about, and in the fraud and security space, we often witness is that being able to obtain kind of a good quality label is very challenging. And by the time you have these labels, meaning the attacks has already occurred, loss has already happened, damage is already being done. And therefore, we are always chasing afterwards. We talk about the security, fraud, risk, all being kind of arms race, cat and mouse game. That speaks to the challenge and the difficult of it. And so to dramatically change our positioning and of not always kind of being chasing after attacks and being kind of one step behind, we need something to make us all as smart as figuring out the attacks on the fly, right? That's kind of the biggest pain point and challenge. Also, if you look at the also my background came from research background. My co-founder Fang Yu, we've been collaborating a lot in the past, working on research topics. And by nature, our expertise and our mission has always been to challenge the frontier of the technology and chase against these hard to tackle problems and to transform the industry for the next big 5 years and next big 10 years. And while everybody's working on supervised machine learning, which is a powerful technology itself, and from our position, we can be laser focused on something to augment that, to be complementary, to bring us further one step forward and to challenge that frontier. And that's why we picked unsupervised machine learning as a technology to truly be committed to working on for the past few years. And I'm glad it's seeing its success and with different type of customers and delivering value to all of us.
No, I think that you are absolutely right. And obviously you couldn't have foreseen the things going on in the world that we have faced today, but I'm sure unsupervised approaches are helping significantly. But given our success as well as the customers, obviously that's who the success is really for. Is can you share some customer success stories from different industries? And to you, where do you see the solution making the most impact?
Well, unsupervised machine learning is a general technology that discovers this kind of fraud rings and sophisticated crime attacks, right, from more data. And therefore, by nature, it can be applied to many different industries and many different use cases. And for example, talk about we generally talk about the social media, how social platforms have been leveraged by attackers and for example, to create many fraudulent accounts or fake accounts, and to, for example, propagate these fake news and influence election campaigns. These are different ways they can do it, and that's where unsupervised machine learning has been demonstrated very effective of discovering these large-scale sophisticated fraud rings. As early as even when the account is being created in the first place. So account creation is a big use case. And we also can apply unsupervised machine learning in many kind of related areas, bot attacks, ATO attacks, as well as kind of content manipulation, fake reviews, and fake kind of listings. And in marketplaces, there are also new types of fraud attacks we haven't seen in the past. Now everybody's moving digital, everybody's moving online, and so all the way from fraudulent buyers to even fraudulent sellers, and being able to detect these kind of new type of attacks, and when we have new features rolling out. In the more traditional sector now, for example, with the banking scenario, financial sector, a big use case of unsupervised machine learning is to detect fraudulent account applications. And we know for the financial industry, for traditional banks, they're also moving online.
Yeah.
And they're allowing the convenience of consumers to be able to do bank transactions, applying credit card without the need to showing up in person at the bank branch. And so that also presents significant challenge to the banks. And traditionally, they work with, for example, local set of people. They understand the user population. Now they suddenly face a widened user population where they don't have good handle of information. And also, unlike transactions, users don't usually at that moment have a lot of history information about the user. Everybody's new kind of a customer. And with so many kind of, security instances going on, these breaches going on, a lot of fake credentials outside and leaked for the attackers to harvest and leverage them to create these fraudulent, for example, credit card applications without actually consumer being aware of this. And that's where you have limited data set, limited transaction history. You need to make decisions on the fly, and that's where unsupervised machine learning is playing a big role by looking at rich typed information beyond the more traditional KYC type of information, even like digital assets, digital fingerprints, to look across the patterns among a large number of, for example, application events, and being able to identify these sophisticated fraud rings. And there are many other use cases, but I hope it gives you some flavor of where unsupervised machine learning can provide great value.
No, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you hit the nail on the head. Is everyone is moving digital. They were moving digital previously, but over the last few months, especially, everyone's moved digitally. So even this whole interview process has moved digitally. But so, given the space being so new and there being so many question marks around it, what is your vision for the future of AI and reducing the human bias that it might currently be facing?
Yeah, so we, all of us very much looking forward to kind of the new type of technology and AI and machine learning being solidly kind of playing big roles in delivering values to our everyday life and to enterprises, right? And so we've been talking about it a lot. But in my view, and for AI and machine learning, to truly to be there are a number of important factors that need to be there. And for one thing, we talk about from the very fundamental of it is that the algorithm, the technology needs to be intelligent. Needs to be intelligent, meaning we're going to discover patterns from the data and we can make intelligent decisions. And so look at some of the challenges in machine learning we talk about in the security, in the fraud industry, right? And the big reliance on this label and manually particular generated labels can be a big barrier. And a conventional sayings could be, say, artificial intelligence. We have a lot of manual work. We have very little intelligence. Speaks about the difficult of it truly kind of working in reality without kind of good quality label yet. Therefore, we need to look broadly at different technologies combinations and the supervised machine learning, for example, and combine with this kind of new unsupervised machine learning technology, and truly to say that we can discover patterns before human does. We will be able to kind of make decisions, the correct kind of decisions, guiding everybody, right? So that's a number one thing. And obviously, moving down, there are many other elements that are also equally important. And for one thing, explainability is a very important aspect as well. And for humans to make decisions, in particular, we understand the rationales behind it. Now, for this algorithm to make decisions, we need to understand what the model is truly and relying on to make that decisions. In particular, for regulated industry, for strong compliance industries, we want to understand not just black box algorithm. We want to understand the reasons of that decision and to guide us. And therefore, explainability is an important area. And I think it's gaining a lot of traction and attention nowadays to truly look at how to make this AI algorithm also explainable. Again, some algorithms, particularly, for example, like the type of unsupervised machine learning the Datavisor is working on, and this kind of provide the explainability and also consider that as a first element as well when we design the algorithm that hopefully can address some of these concerns as well. And the third aspect, obviously, is data privacy. And as consumer ourselves, we care about what kind of data is being collected and how are they used. And while the general trend everybody's looking at is for this AI supervised, particularly supervised machine learning is working on, is there's this tendency of collecting everything about the user. The more you know, the more intelligent it is. But on the other hand, and like unsupervised machine learning again, and the power of exploring that anonymized data and the data elements across different customers, but to a lesser degree about each user, can also augment it and reduce the reliance on a huge amount of data. So these are also positive directions, can alleviate everybody's concern about data privacy. At the same time, we also working on the trust issue to build upon that, right? And finally, we want to also to minimize the friction of good users. Therefore, we want an algorithm to actually have low false positives and have good user experience. And when you have all these elements together, then you do have a successful technology that could every day speak value and guide our kind of decision process and providing value to enterprises and to consumers.
No, I think that there's going to be more and more opportunity for us moving forward. I mean, asking today and probably asking you in 6 months what the future might hold is going to be very different answers. So I'm excited to hear and see about it more. And, I'm excited to get to talk with you again soon in the future. But thank you again for today.
Thank you very much. My great pleasure here.
Thank you. And hope you all enjoyed. And we will talk to you again very soon.
Thanks.